Hey guys, hello, my name is Lynn Schrader, and today I want to talk to you about this notion, this awesome notion about thinking big. I've got three of my sons home for the summer. One will be going off to college, and the other two are home for a little while together, so it's such a gift. And we've been talking about thinking big. Before I get into the subject, I do want to introduce myself a little bit further. My name is Lynn Schrader, and I empower men and women to step outside of their comfort zone and begin living a life that they could have never imagined. I love to ignite a fire and a passion in people who are ready for a change and who are ready for more. So this topic of thinking big, you know, when your kids get a certain age and you watch them walk into adulthood, whether you're ready or not, right? But you watch them walk into these decision making that adults do. And one of that is thinking big. And we've been having that conversation about not settling for just so-so. Being grateful, right? We want to be in a state of gratitude and thanksgiving for things, but to expect more and bigger things, because we are all made for greatness and we all have a purpose in this world. So we've been discussing thinking big, and I wanted to hop on here and talk about some things that we've been discussing. The thing is we should never ever underestimate this power that we have of our thinking and our dreams to make things bigger. Small thinking isn't going to get you far, right? That's when you're in that state of settling, but it's the big thinking that gets you very far. The fact of the matter is that none of us knows what our limits are, right? We don't know what our limit for thinking big is. I'm reminded of one of my favorite books is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. He could have never imagined what his limit was before he got to that concentration camp, and what he would be called to do on the inside, to think bigger and be stronger than he could have ever imagined. So none of us knows what our limits are. Recently, I watched here in St. Louis, Channel 9 is our PBS station. I don't know what it is, but recently I was watching a program, and it was about the Revolutionary War. Now, I'm a huge history buff, so anytime things like that come on, I usually stop and watch. But on there, it was sort of showcasing, if you will, some of the very large figures in the Revolutionary War, and I was just astounded of some of their big thinking that they did. I mean, you look at Ethan Allen or Benjamin Franklin or George Washington or Paul Revere, and the thinking that they had to put out there, this big thinking. They didn't settle. They had, our country was on the line, and how impressive that was. I think of the person or people who invented the wheel. My goodness sakes, that was a big thinking on their part, you know. They had something heavy they needed to carry, and over time they thought, I could do this better than carrying something and hurting my back. I think we need to invent something to make it easier to do that. They thought big. Gutenberg, who did the printing press, you know, I'm sure after they were writing out these newspapers or whatever it was by hand, and his idea of thinking big and making the printing press. Oh my gosh, where has that gotten us today? Christopher Columbus. I mean, my goodness, people used to think the earth was flat, right? And they'd sail a ship over the end and go into the abyss. But he had a different idea, and other sailors had a different idea. They thought big. So this conversation's been top of mind with my kids and I lately. And you know, yes, it's important that we think small sometimes, right? Big opportunities come along and small problems are there, right? This word small is not a bad word. I'd rather have a small problem than a big problem. Sometimes it's great to get that big present from underneath of the Christmas tree, but sometimes it's really great to get that small boxed present because maybe there's some jewelry in there. Sometimes you can laugh really big, and then sometimes you can just chuckle very small. So big and small is not a bad word, but when we're thinking about expanding who we are, then big is always better. Some people have a fear of failing or being inadequate, so they don't like to make big goals. And that's comfort level thinking. Remember, what's impossible now is very, very possible for later. And you and I need to override our brain's resistance to that bigger thinking. Some of the benefits of thinking big. I have a very large team in a direct marketing company, and I'm also a successful life and business coach, and I have clients, and we often talk about, whether it's from my team or my clients, we talk about these stretch goals, how important it is for us to stretch us to see what we're made of. Because again, we don't know what our limits are. So there are benefits. There are benefits to making these big goals. And one of them is that making big goals generates this inner power or this inner confidence inside of us. When we believe in things that aren't yet true, we have this confidence. Now, what's the word believe mean? Believe means to be sure of. So when you have this surety of things that aren't happening yet, you get confident, right? When you believe in things despite the current evidence that's here now, you're confident. When you believe in the possibility, you're confident. That is a great, huge benefit to thinking big. So my sons and I were talking, who doesn't want to get more confident and thinking about things that could be, despite the evidence? Number two, a benefit is that it recreates, this thinking big recreates our current identity. It challenges our brain. Now let's talk about our brain. Our brain wants to keep us safe. Our brain is wired to keep us safe, to keep us perfectly happy with never challenging ourselves. Our brain wants us to hunker down and settle in and be safe. And when we think big, we're forced out of that. We create our identity around things that we've accomplished. But when we think big, we're recreating our identity, and we're saying, someday I'm going to do this. Watch me. We create a new one that really acts on this uncertainty, and that makes us stronger. You're asking more of yourself than what your brain is asking of you. Huge. And number three, a benefit is that honestly, it's a time. It makes you treasure your time, because when you're chasing quick wins, and there's nothing wrong with goals that are just a week or a year, but when you're thinking big, you're thinking into the future, and sometimes those quick wins are exhausting, and they steal the present, your present, where you are now. So you can enjoy, when you think big, you can enjoy where you are now by looking into the future, knowing that it's going to happen. Slow and steady progress. Sometimes this hurrying to get this goal succeed is exhausting, and it's not helpful. So sometimes a benefit to chasing big goals is that it really makes you happy with the present. You can have lifetime big goals, and you can have 1 year dream goals. These lifetime goals require creativity. They require stretching your mind, where those short-term goals or dreams, they require tactics and strategy, how-tos, following what other people have done and copying them, which is not bad. But you can see where big dreams are not so frantic and frenzied. Now, there are 3 must-haves that you need, I feel, when you're thinking big. And number 1 is to believe in yourself. Remember when I said believe means that you're sure of something. You have to believe in yourself. You have to be sure of yourself. You have to think success, not failure. The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief. You can write that down. You can tweet that one. That's a tweetable. The size of your belief is determined, the size of your success is determined by the size of your belief. It's true. You are what you think you are. You are what you believe you are. I mean, I laugh when I think some of the things that I've done in the last 8 years since I started a different course of my, from teaching. I went into different things, and they were completely out of my comfort zone, but I always knew, I always believed, I always looked, I could always picture myself doing what I am now back then. I don't know why, but I did. I wasn't living it, but I was sure that it was going to happen. So you've got to have belief in yourself. How you see yourself is how others see you. So you've got to be confident and believe in yourself. Another must-have is a right attitude. No more excuses. You have to see why you can succeed instead of, you have to see why you can succeed and dream big instead of why you can't. No more excuses and no more bad attitudes. You've got to have a right attitude. Here's a saying that I love. The right attitude and one arm are better than the wrong attitude and 2 arms. I'll say it again. The right attitude and just 1 arm is so much better than the wrong attitude with 2 arms. You've got to have a good attitude and believe, dream big. You've got to also know that there's going to be failures and bumps in the road. But you got to have a right attitude about it. That's where we grow. And then the third must-have is you've got to be an action taker. When we don't take action, that's when we get fearful. And action is the antidote to fear. Action cures fear. And indecision and delays just feed the fears. You can't just dream about something. You've got to be active and start walking toward that. The sky is the limit. So here's a quote. Here's a quote from the guy who wrote The Alchemist. If you haven't read that book, it's pretty good. It's a really easy read. But he says, if you think small, your world will be small. But if you think big, your world will be big. You and I need to think big. The sky is the limit. Can you imagine if you had conversations with the people in your house about thinking big, or the people that you come in contact with? How if we all began to think bigger, and what our purpose is, and what we can do to change the world, how that can change the world. So if you got some value out of this video, if you, like me, like to dream big and think big, then give me a thumbs up or let me know what you thought of this. If you know somebody in your world that would stand to benefit from this video, then tag them or share this video to them. I love to pay things forward. That's really how I run my life. If people have spoken positivity and great things into my life, then I want to turn around and do that to someone else. So I'd appreciate that. And I'll also drop in the comment section below, I'll drop some affirmations that I am offering to send you to your inbox completely free. It's just me on MP3 speaking some words of life. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and you have a great day.